Being told you have cancer is a moment that fractures time. Jill Ireland later said it was one of the most frightening, isolating experiences of her life. Hearing the word malignant felt like the ground disappeared beneath her, leaving her alone with thoughts she could barely process. That sense of isolation would shape not only how she faced illness, but how she lived, loved, and ultimately chose to tell her story. Jill Ireland was born on April 24, 1936, in Hounslow, southwest London. Her early years were marked by instability and fear. Her father, Jack, was a wine importer whose business collapsed under wartime restrictions. When Jill was still a small child, German bombs began falling on London. During the Blitz, her family spent nights sheltering in underground stations, sometimes for days at a time. Their home was damaged, their income vanished, and her mother Dorothy took in laundry just to earn a few coins. Jill, barely 6 years old, helped fold dirty clothes in a cracked house with taped windows, learning early that survival required endurance and silence. At 7, Jill began ballet lessons at the Royal Academy of Dancing. Even as air raid sirens interrupted classes, she showed extraordinary determination. During a Christmas performance in 1944, when sirens sent the audience fleeing for safety, 8-year-old Jill finished her solo alone on stage. Teachers never forgot it. She practiced for hours each day, even after being told she was growing too tall for classical ballet. At 12, she joined a touring ballet company, earning more than her father ever had after the war. But that opportunity turned traumatic when the much older director sexually assaulted her. After escaping and reporting the incident, Jill was threatened with being blacklisted. She quit ballet entirely, carrying the trauma and mistrust with her into adulthood. As a teenager, Jill trained at the Corona Theatre School, where her height made her a target for ridicule. Teachers dismissed her prospects, and Jill responded by rebelling. She formed relationships with older men, clashed with her parents, and struggled under growing financial strain as her family lost their home. She worked early mornings in a Soho cafe, enduring harassment, hunger, and exhaustion. There were days she ate nothing but bread and butter, once fainting in class from lack of food. Poverty hardened her resolve. She promised herself she would never be that poor again. Her acting career began slowly but steadily. By the late 1950s, she was appearing regularly in British films. Her breakthrough came with Carry On Nurse in 1959, which became a massive box office success. That same period saw her marriage to actor David McCallum and the birth of their son Paul. They later adopted another son, Jason, under circumstances Jill would only learn the truth about decades later. Jason's struggles with addiction would become one of the greatest sorrows of her life. In the early 1960s, Jill moved to Los Angeles with McCallum. She found the city frightening rather than glamorous, especially after being violently mugged on Rodeo Drive. Around that time, she met Charles Bronson while filming The Great Escape. Their connection was immediate and explosive. Bronson openly declared his intention to marry her, and what began as attraction became a secret affair. When the truth emerged, Jill faced public humiliation, career damage, and the loss of custody rights. Studios dropped her, tabloids vilified her, and she received hate mail and death threats. It was one of the darkest periods of her life. She married Bronson in 1968, but the marriage was far from peaceful. His jealousy, possessiveness, and explosive temper created chaos on film sets and in their private lives. Jill endured multiple miscarriages, injuries, and emotional strain, often continuing to work through severe pain to protect contracts and livelihoods. She suffered depression, relied on medications at times, and lived under relentless public scrutiny. Yet she remained fiercely committed to her family, eventually raising 7 children through birth, adoption, and guardianship. In 1984, everything changed again. Jill found a lump in her breast while at home. For nearly 10 hours she told no one, sitting alone with terror and disbelief. When the diagnosis came back malignant, the shock was overwhelming. Contrary to later tabloid stories, she did not hide her illness from her husband. Charles Bronson was present from the beginning, attending appointments, learning medical details, and refusing to leave her side. Jill underwent a radical mastectomy, followed by chemotherapy and radiation. The treatments were brutal. She lost weight, lost her hair, and was frequently too sick to stand. Bronson supported her in ways that stunned those who knew his tough public image. He attended every chemotherapy session, helped manage her medications, changed bandages, and stayed with her constantly. Jill eventually chose to speak publicly about her illness. She believed silence only deepened fear. Her book Life Wish became a bestseller and a lifeline for countless women facing cancer. She testified before Congress for mammography coverage, spoke at dozens of events, and used her visibility to push for compassion and early detection. Even when cancer returned and spread to her lungs and bones, she continued to advocate, often appearing exhausted, faint, or in pain behind the scenes. During this period, tragedy struck again when her son Jason died of a drug overdose in 1989. Jill later said losing him hurt more than cancer ever did. Still, she kept going, publishing another memoir, Lifelines, which revealed painful truths about addiction, motherhood, and deception surrounding Jason's adoption. She spoke openly about despair and suicidal thoughts, believing honesty could save others. As Jill's health declined, Bronson transformed entirely into her caregiver. He cooked, cleaned, managed medications, and converted their bedroom into a medical suite. He read poetry to her during chemotherapy and hospital stays, sometimes for hours. Nurses and visitors were deeply moved by his devotion. Together, they founded the Ireland Bronson Cancer Foundation, providing financial support to families who could not afford treatment. Jill Ireland died on May 18, 1990, at home in Malibu. After her cremation, Bronson carried her ashes inside a specially made cane for the rest of his life. When he died in 2003, the cane was buried with him. Jill's legacy lives on through her books, her advocacy, and the countless people she helped face illness with less fear. Her life was marked by hardship, scandal, love, and resilience, but at its core was a refusal to suffer in silence and a belief that even in the darkest moments, holding someone's hand could make all the difference.